Good morning, everybody. We are going to talk about gratitude today. This is Free Coaching Fridays, where I'm Robin Ann Reed. I go live every Friday and talk about some aspect of making your life better, some aspect of higher level satisfaction, higher level awareness, higher level capacity to live a really wonderful, full, and fulfilled life. And today we are going to talk about gratitude. We're going into the Thanksgiving holiday. It's less than a week away for those of us who live in the United States. And so many people are challenged by this holiday because they feel estranged from their families. They have difficulty with their families. They feel that life is difficult these days. There's very little to be grateful for, and they're struggling. So I wanted to talk about gratitude as a tool. It's not a have to. There's no judgment here. But I want to talk about gratitude as a tool to feeling better. So I want to talk about the why, and then I want to talk about the how. Why does gratitude improve your life? Why should we look at gratitude as a tool? When someone is depressed, when someone is anxious, one of the first things that they do, usually in our Western world, is talk to a therapist, talk to a doctor, and look for drugs to help the symptoms, basically. Depression and anxiety and feeling blah are really not the cause of our problems, but they're symptoms of the deeper problem. And that deeper problem is usually disconnect from ourselves, disconnect from what we love, disconnect from our ability to get into the flow of a purposeful and rewarding life. And that may be because we have difficulty with the people around us, with our work, with ourselves. And so one of the very first things that people do is look to drugs to even out their emotions. It's probably it's probably the least effective long-term solution, but it can be a very, very effective short-term solution, especially if you're not able to get in touch with what will change the monkey mind going around, what will change those bad feelings that you have, and you need some sort of intervention. I am not at all opposed to that. I support people using those tools when they are really in desperate straits, when they don't know what else to do, and their emotions and their moods are really impacting their lives in a very negative way. So I want to go on the books as being supportive of people using medical intervention when they need to with their emotions and their moods to help stabilize their lives. Gratitude is not the very first thing that you pull out of your toolkit when you're in crisis or when you are in an extreme situation. I want to first of all make sure that that's understood. So, when can you use gratitude? All the time, all the time, all the time. If someone is using medication to help them get balanced and manage their life, and they come to me, I'm always supportive of their use of the medications. But one of the very first things that we start with is creating a gratitude practice. I recommend it to absolutely all of my clients. A gratitude practice is very simple. It's focusing on gratitude for at least 5 minutes a day. And if you can't do it for 5 minutes because conditions seem so dire for you, if you can spend 1 minute looking at your life, choosing something to be grateful for, and then thinking about why you are grateful for that aspect of your life, even 1 minute can make a difference. And then you build up from there. Ideally, you'll do this twice a day, in the morning when you get up, when you're fresh and you're about to start your day. I encourage people to do it when they're brushing their teeth. They don't do it before they get out of bed. so that you are doing it as a habit with other habits. You are stacking habits and dealing with two birds with one stone, really, at the same time. And then doing it again before you go to bed. Ideally, you will write this down. When we think about gratitude, we have an experience of gratitude, but when we write it down, we literally put it into physical form. And when we are writing longhand, something happens in our brain that makes it more real. And so when we are contemplating what we're grateful for and we write it down, it actually is stronger than when we just think about it. I see that we have some people joining us here. If you have any questions about gratitude, I encourage you to put your comment in the comment box. If you have any stories about gratitude, if you have some arguments about what I'm saying, I encourage you to put that in the comment box, and we can bring that into our discussion today. So, where was I here? I think I was talking about how to do this. Spending at least 5 minutes a day, and if you can do it 15 minutes, is really strong. Doing that twice a day, in the morning when you get up as part of your morning routine, and then as your bedtime routine before retiring. And if you can keep a journal, you'll be able to go back in time and see what you were grateful for a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, and see how your life has shifted. My encouragement to people is not to, when you're doing this every day, not to go back over the same things. If you can't find anything to be grateful for when you're doing this practice, go deeper, go smaller. If you say, I'm grateful for my husband, or I'm grateful for my friend Susie, instead of going back into being grateful for your friend Susie, write why you are grateful for your friend Susie. Write why you are grateful for your husband, why you're grateful for the weather, why you're grateful for your car. What do you appreciate about your car? Rather than going general, go more detailed. Go into much more detail about what you are grateful for. It's also an exploration in how much you are observing. When we are spending time on gratitude for aspects of our life, we also are changing our brain. Now I want to use my notes here. Our parasympathetic system gets activated when we are focusing on gratitude. Now, I'm not going to go into the why, but if you want to, you can Google this because it's all online. Hi, Kate. Thanks for joining us this morning. So our parasympathetic system is triggered, and that decreases cortisol, and it also produces more oxytocin, which is all of our favorite feel-good hormone. And doing this twice a day improves our ability to get out of monkey mind. It improves our ability to focus. It improves our experience of feeling good about ourselves and the other people around us. Good morning, Barb. Thanks for joining us. So when our body's producing more oxytocin, that's the bonding hormone. We have a tendency to feel good about those people in our lives, and that increases when we have a little bit more oxytocin flowing through. It's some of the statistics on all of this stuff is really amazing. University of California, San Diego did research on using gratitude, and they found that their subjects universally had better heart health in a number of qualifiers, and there was less information in those people's bodies overall, and they were testing these things chemically. They were literally doing very highly calibrated scientific testing on the chemicals in these people's bloodstream when they did a gratitude practice. And it's fascinating. If you Google um, scientific research on gratitude practice, you'll find all sorts of research going on, and there's more and more all the time. Um, there was also a 2006 study that worked with Vietnam War vets, and they found that when the vets did a regular practice of gratitude, a daily gratitude practice, even once a day, their levels of PTSD declined. This says a lot, folks. Um, there are also studies that show that doing gratitude practice, which means writing it down before going to sleep, improves our sleep performance. And this also has been studied with doing scientific studies where everything is highly calibrated. So, um, uh, hi, Barb. I froze up on your computer. I hope it was on a very good point. Um, so there's enough research in the field to validate what many of us have known for lots of years, in that we feel better when we have a gratitude practice. I myself have gone through a lot of rough stuff in my life. I've had great loss. I had life-threatening illnesses and conditions. I've struggled with um, illnesses of people around me and emotional conditions of people around me. So I've had a lot to handle. I also had a business where I managed over 70 people. And um, any of you who have owned your own businesses and dealt with employees know what that's like. It's like driving a team of 70 horses, and you've got to do your best to help everybody do their best. And it can be pretty strenuous at times. I used gratitude to help me stay in the flow for management purposes, stay in a good feeling place when I was threatened, when there were some life threatening things going on with me, and when there were conditions around me that I could not control. That was probably the biggest eye opener. When I started using gratitude, doing a gratitude practice, when I was in conditions around me that I could not control, and they were dire, they were very stressful, and I could not see light at the end of the tunnel. I used a gratitude practice, and I did it grudgingly. When we're in difficult situations, it might be really, really hard for us to do a gratitude practice, or at least to start a gratitude practice, because we feel so overwhelmed by everything that's going on. We feel overwhelmed by the fact that there's no way that we can see that can change our trajectory of our experience of life. And so a gratitude practice just feels like one more thing to try. And yet, if we can just take that very first step, it can make a difference. Um, Hold on here. I'm getting something come in. We don't even really have to feel gratitude, is what the guides are saying. If we just observe things, if we just make an observation around us, if we are in a very difficult emotional state, if we are in a monkey mind situation, if we're overwhelmed by sadness, overwhelmed by anger, overwhelmed by grief, we might feel that it's almost impossible for us to feel any gratitude. And the guides just reminded me that you don't have to feel gratitude to start. The way to start is just to observe. Don't worry about your feelings. If you're overwhelmed by big feelings, you don't have to change that to start a gratitude practice. You just start observing. And you look at things right where you are. You're in a room, you're in your office, or you're in your living room, or you're in your bedroom. Look at the bedding around you. Look at the things on your desk. Look at the colors of things around you. Appreciate the color of something that's close to you. Don't do it for long. Do it for 10 seconds. And then notice the next thing around you. Notice the next thing in your environment. And notice the color. Notice the shape. Appreciate the color. And if it's something that's useful for you, just notice that that thing is useful for you. And even make the internal statement as you're writing. I'm grateful to have these blankets on my bed. I'm grateful to have these pens to use for writing. I'm grateful to have these pots and pans on my counter. Wherever you are, you don't have to feel a lot of emotion to start. You just look at things and notice their usefulness to you. State that usefulness. That is a form of gratitude. And when you are in such dire circumstances that you feel that you can't even dredge up one tiny thread of feeling gratitude, you just observe and notice all these useful things in your life, all these things that are in your life, and notice that they're there. You start there. Anybody have questions about that particular aspect? One of the things that I hear from my clients when they are in stressful situations or very tough situations, it's difficult for them to sustain a gratitude practice, and it's often even difficult to start. And so I'm giving you some tips on how to start and how to keep it going. You don't have to generate that feeling of gratitude. And if you can't find anything inside, you just start by noticing things around you, things in your life, conditions in your life, and observe how they serve you. Observe that they're there for you. As you do this, the feelings of gratitude will come. Oh, I'm looking at these pens on my desk, and I realize that I have pens. I'm going to pull one of my own. I realize that I have pens that I absolutely love. There. You've gone from utility, this pen serves me, to, I realize that I have pens that I really, really love. If you're in bed getting ready to go to sleep and you're writing in your journal and you're noticing your bedding, is any piece of bedding something that makes you feel cozy and warm? And notice that, even if you can't access those feelings of gratitude inside, just mentally notice that and write it down. Once you can get hold of one thing that you realize, oh, I like that, or this one is better for me, or I realize that I depend on that particular blanket. I realize how special to me my pillow is every night. I love the softness of my pillow. I love the hardness of my pillow. I sleep with a silk pillowcase. I love my silk pillowcase. Do you love your pillowcase? Do you love the texture of your pillow? Do you love how it smells? Do you love how it looks on your bed? These are examples of going specific, going into detail when you don't know what to appreciate and you can't seem to access any feelings of appreciation. This is how you start. Anybody have questions on that or comments? Does this sort of thing work for you? Do you have any difficulties accessing gratitude or finding things to be grateful for? I'd love to hear from you. Doing a gratitude journal, doing a gratitude practice also increases your self-esteem over time. It actually raises your vibrational rate. It raises your vibrational rate. And when we raise our vibrational rate, when we literally lift ourselves out of the lower vibrational rate of anger, frustration, I'm going to grab my Abraham Hicks Ask and It Is Given list of emotions on the scale of emotions. When you're in disappointment and doubt and worry and blame and discouragement and anger and revenge and jealousy, when you're in guilt and feeling unworthy, this is a time to pull out your gratitude practice and focus even for a minute, even for a couple minutes, on being grateful for the things around you in your life. And even though you can't access the feeling, just accessing one thing that you notice in your life that's helpful for you, that you realize, oh, this thing is serviceable for me. This thing assists me in my life. That alone will raise your vibration. And if you can, keep going. You just keep going. And once you start this practice, it's going to be easier and easier to do the next time that you do it. It'll be easier tonight. It'll be easier tomorrow morning. It'll be even easier tomorrow evening. Let me just go in here. Let me just look at my notes. Another thing that it does is using a gratitude practice enhances our ability to feel empathy for people. There's so much division going on in the world right now. And we each individually can help change that particular energy by getting into the routine of using practices that increase our empathy, increase our ability to identify with other people and their difficulties, rather than looking at other people and criticizing and judging their mindsets, their words, how they function in the world, what their beliefs are, how they are impacting everything else in the world. If we can find something to empathize with those people around, using a gratitude practice can help us do that. And when we do that, we literally shift the energy in the world. It really has the impact of prayer. When we pray, let me start at the base here. When we've just come through the elections here in the West, and there was so much fear. There was so much fear, really, on both sides about what was going to happen, and there was such a huge energetic split between the two ideologies that were basically up for offices. And when that happens, people have a tendency to polarize. And for those of us who really take peace as one of our values, and we feel sad, we feel frustrated, we may even feel some hopelessness around the possibility of creating a peaceful way of being in the world. When we feel those more difficult emotions, using a gratitude practice, not about those aspects, but using a gratitude practice can really help us identify with aspects of those people with whom we are diametrically opposed. And when we can find ways of appreciating them, of really understanding that they too are here, and they have as much right to be here as we do, and they also have the ability to impact the world just like we do. And when we can appreciate something about them, we also are healing the rift. We're healing that schism that happens, that creates polarization. Anybody have questions about this? Or comments? I realize some of you may be at work. Kate, thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that. Kate says it helps her to use a lot of different words for gratitude. It keeps her from rebelling. Yes, and I guess what I'm focusing on here is what to do when you know all of the good things that can happen from using a gratitude practice, but you feel like not doing it, and you feel resistance to it, and you feel like you're rebelling. Kate, what are some of the words that you use? We can use appreciation. We can use observation. Observation might feel fairly clinical, but that really is part of appreciating something when you put your attention on it. Kate says love. I have a gratitude challenge going on in both of my Facebook pages and in my Instagram site. It's 15 days of gratitude between now and the end of November. And so I have a prompt every day for people to write. And and I asked people what they love about money. And it was very, very interesting to see the people that commented about, well, I don't know if I can love money. I don't know about loving money. I don't know how much I love about money. It was very interesting. And some people emailed me privately or texted me privately and said, what are you thinking about that? What were you thinking about when you said love? Most people don't love money. Most people struggle around money. Well, that's just the issue. If you really want to take on a big aspect of your life and shift things, Kate is saying she uses the words loving it. She has radical acceptance. Radical acceptance quite often gives the impression that you are accepting something that most people would find unacceptable. And it's a function of surrendering to this thing or this aspect or this way of being in the world. Even though you don't agree with it, you may have some difficulty with it, you are radically accepting it, or you are accepting it in the face of other people not accepting it, not liking it, not agreeing with you, not appreciating it, not loving it, certainly. All of these things this is cutting edge stuff, folks. When we can find the things that we don't like very much in our world and find ways to appreciate those aspects. Don't take the biggest thing. Take the political figure that you are most opposed to. You don't want to look at what you are opposed to in them. You want to find some aspect of them that is slightly different than that, radically different than that. If there are candidates that you, with whom you are diametrically opposed on philosophical issues, look at their appearance, look at their families, look at the other things that they've accomplished in their life and find things to appreciate about that. Looks like we've got some spam coming in here. Kate said when she uses other words besides gratitude, and she gave the recommendation love, loving it, radical acceptance, then she's able to find the gratitude. When she uses different language to get to something that she appreciates about particular aspects that she's looking at. Coming back into this, if you really want to use gratitude as a life-changing element, you can use it literally, consider it a tool in your toolbox and bring it out and use it on all of the hard pieces of your life. When you're starting a gratitude practice, it's best to start with the things that come easy, the things that you really love in your life, the things that you really appreciate. But if you're going to use this as a tool, use it to appreciate aspects of your life that have been extremely difficult. I've used gratitude to heal my relationship with my ex-husband. And this is my relationship with my ex-husband, not his relationship with me. Now, did any of my work impact him? I don't know. Never asked him, probably never will. But we divorced, and it was a terrible, terrible divorce. It was very hard. It was very contentious at the time. This was 25 years ago, 26, 27 years ago, 27 and 28 years ago. It was very, very difficult. We had preteen children involved, and I had so many hard feelings, so much anger, so much rage, so much despair, so many feelings of being taken advantage of, so many feelings of loss and regret, and even jealousy. So many hard feelings. And I all of my life, I've had therapists. I've worked with coaches, counselors, and therapists. And so at the time, my therapist recommended that I do a gratitude practice. I had done gratitude practices before that, but I always did the easy ones. I didn't really tap into anything difficult. I I would find aspects of my life that I really loved, and find ways to express gratitude around that. But the work to heal my experience around my ex-husband was something that was important to me because I wanted to eliminate my bad feelings around my family as a whole, and to make that relationship or to make that experience healthy and easy for my children. I also wanted to lessen my feelings of regret, my feelings of anger and despondency around that entire issue. I had so much rage. And so I did a daily gratitude practice on my ex-husband. And boy, did I grit my teeth. It was literally like chewing iron filings to find things to appreciate about my ex-husband. And so I found things to appreciate about the time that we had spent together. I started basically appreciating the fact that without him, I couldn't have had those amazing children. I love my children dearly. I looked at his family rather than focusing specifically on him, and found things to appreciate about his family. I found things to appreciate about uh, ways that being with him had enhanced my life. So I started sort of on the periphery, appreciating his family, appreciating the fact that without him, I could not have had those children, appreciating travel that we had had together, even though I had sponsored all of it. I appreciated experiences that I could not have had I not been in a relationship with him, um, and started there. It took me about 4.5 years to get to the place where I was fairly neutral. And I started in rage. I was in that rageful place where I didn't appreciate anything about him because things had gotten so bad. And over the course of 4 to 5 years, I worked my way through so many things. I realized only almost at the end of those almost 5 years that I still loved him. And that was the breakthrough. I could not let myself believe that I could love someone who it had been so tough to be with, that I'd had so many negative experiences with. And once I got to that place and I appreciated that I had been able to hold that understanding, to hold that truth away from me, I'd been able to hold the truth that I loved him far enough away so it didn't break me. It took me 4 years to get to the place where I could realize that. And it was my gratitude practice that was probably the strongest tool in my toolbox to do that. But I got to a place of being neutral, and I could be in the same room with him. I could be at a birthday party with him. It happened on my son's 16th birthday, where I realized I'm in my in-laws' home. My ex and his girlfriend had been there, and my current husband was there at the time. My children were there, and we had all had a wonderful time together. I didn't have much interaction with him, but that is the place where I realized that I could really appreciate who he was in a way that until then I had not been able to. It took me 4 years, folks. I'm telling this story because it may take you a long time to come to appreciate the difficult things in your life, or even be able to consider appreciation of the difficulties in your life. I want to talk about another aspect of this, and that is considering your health and health of other people around you. When you use your gratitude practice to appreciate your physicality and your health, and to work through illness and uh, not so much illness, but when you have a bodily condition, like you've broken something have several friends who are having joint replacements, and we talked about using gratitude to work through some of the aspects of the joint replacements. Some people can go through joint replacements and they are happy about it, and others really are resistant to the pain, are unsure of how big a difference it's going to make in their life. And using a gratitude practice around this can help quite a bit. It might seem unusual to use a gratitude practice around something like health that you don't think that you can control. And yet that is exactly the point. Finding aspects to appreciate or love, or find positive aspects of, it's another word to use, positive aspects of, helps you soften your resistance to those things in the world, and helps you really even come to understand how these difficult experiences are actually serving your growth, are actually causing you to face things in your life that you wouldn't have faced if everything is going well. When I was in my mid-20s, I had cancer, and I was at university, and I was far away from my family. I was pretty much alone. I had friends, I had some roommates, but I didn't have family to support me. And I felt like I'd been blindsided by the world. Um, I had I was healed by a minor surgery, but even at the time, it was unsure whether that surgery would really um, be the healing aspect that would keep me cancer free for the rest of my life. And so I had a lot of fear. It wasn't until about, oh gosh, maybe even 10 years later that I considered appreciating that particular experience, and considered appreciating what I'd faced by having cancer, especially at such a young age. And at the time, it was a cancer that was poorly understood, not only as far as the cause was concerned, but also whether particular treatments would be effective in the long term. And so my experience at the time was during sort of an experimental phase in treating that cancer. And I lived with fear for a lot of years. And because of that fear, I started paying better attention to my body. I started paying better attention to my diet. I started reading about not just the particular cancer that I had, but other cancers as well. I started looking deeply into holistic treatments, into holistic um, ways of living, holistic ways um, of using herbs, of using food as medicine, um, what particular exercise and body movement, yoga, um, Tai Chi, and how those things impacted the body. Started looking really seriously at meditation. And in fact, I ended up teaching meditation. And I did that as a result of exploration of my disease. And all of those things combined really helped me understand, helped me come to deeper understanding how disease and impairment, physical disease and impairment, really are growth instigators. And I came to appreciate the difficulties in my life being the proddings of the universe towards growth. And so the very last thing that I want to talk about is how to deal with the difficult aspects of our life and go straight on to finding ways to appreciate those things. Can you appreciate the fact that you have cancer? Can you see all of the ways? Can you experiment and explore all of the ways that cancer is actually enhancing your life? Can you look at the chronic disease that you have and look at all the ways that it's forcing you to come head to head with aspects of your life, other people, conditions, possibilities, or even things that are being taken away from you, and find appreciation for those aspects. Um, if anybody has questions or comments on this, if you've done this yourself, I encourage you to um, put your comments in the comment section. Sorry, I just had to block somebody here who was saying naughty things. I don't know how they find us. You know, I'm finding ways to appreciate that that person found their way into our room. Maybe they needed this conversation. Um, so how can you consider the difficult things in your life as literally being tools for growth, being tools for greater understanding, being tools to connect with other people, being tools so that you are an inspiration for others? And that's one of the last things I want to come to, is appreciation as inspiration. Um, hold on here. I'm going to listen for a moment. I have, there are several articles that I want to put into the feed here at the end. They're articles about um, the, the bodily impact of gratitude, and also how language literally changes our brain. When we do a gratitude practice, it not only makes us feel better in the moment and over time, and it can enhance our bodies. It also changes our brain. When we use our gratitude practices to help us shift the language that we're using about our life, the language that we use in our life, we are actually changing our brains in a very positive way. As we use more positive terms in our life rather than negative terms, as we're appreciating things um, rather than complaining, or rather than feeling victimized, when we can move away from complaint in the world, we literally change our bodies to a more healthy way of being, and we change our brain to be so that it's easier for us to entertain positive thoughts. Now, think about that for a moment. As we use more positive terms, as we spend more time in appreciation of the world around us, our own lives, and the world around us, we literally change our brain, change our experience of the world. And in that way, we also are an inspiration for others who can see this happening. Kate says that she feels the anger and the fear, and she accepts them. She's basically saying she's surrendering to how the world is. She's accepting that this is what is right now in the world. And they give her the consciousness to find the love and the gratitude. When we can observe what is happening right now, right here, and be with it without instantly going to how can I change this in the world, but being with the presence right now, right here, we then have the power to go forward. And even being present with the very aspects of our life that we've been resisting shifts that understanding and our connection to that way of being. When we really sit with something as it is right now, we change our experience of that thing in a positive way, even if it's only 1 or 2 degrees. Fran says she realized through her cancer at age 33 that she'd focused on caring for others and neglected herself, and that she needed to get better balanced. And Kate says, Amen, soul sister. That's right. So when we find ways to appreciate the difficulty that's going on with us, we not only impact our lives, but we also impact other lives around us. We impact other lives around us because we are focusing on the positive, because we're focusing not on the negative, not on avoidance, but acceptance of what is in the world, And we don't even have to think, I'm going to accept this. If there are things that you cannot yet accept, not yet find gratitude for, just being with those aspects, just being with the fact that someone you love dearly has just passed away, just being with the fact that you've lost your job, just being there without trying to change it, without thinking forward, how can I make this different? Just being with the fact that I feel really sad. I feel really sad. I feel lonely. I feel disconnected. And I don't know what to do about that. Just being with that and breathing through it without trying to change it. That is acceptance. It doesn't mean that we make it okay. It means we are just being with it. When we find aspects to appreciate what's going on, it's not that we're saying that it's okay. We are saying, I'm going to accept this right now, just as it is. And I'm going to be in this place with my life, just as it is right now, with this condition of my life, just as it is right now, with the condition of my home, the condition of my work, the condition of my family. I am just going to be with how it is right now without trying to change it. It doesn't mean I like it. Acceptance doesn't mean that you like it. It doesn't mean that you make it all right. Appreciating aspects of that thing that's hard doesn't mean that you like it. It doesn't mean that you're saying it's okay that you are in the world. What it means is that you are finding ways to appreciate what is happening, what's going on, what's present in your world. And you are bringing your vibration to a place of being able to be in the same place as this thing, even though you don't want it, even though you don't like it. And that is the place, my friends, of power. Because from that place of being able to be with something, being able to accept something just as it is in the world right now, then you know that you can find the next step forward. Rather than resist it, you can find the next step forward to shifting things in the world, to shifting your experience in the world. And gratitude is one of the most powerful tools to be able to do that. Does anybody else have questions or comments, your own stories? Fran, I know that you had quite a transformational experience when you had cancer, and there may be other people who are with us right now who've gone through your own transformational experiences. Whether you used gratitude deliberately or not, as we progress through conditions in our lives that are difficult, that are hurtful, that are painful, that are horrific. My family, I've talked about this on my Facebook Lives. My family lost 4 little children this year. My brother lost 4 grandchildren in a horrific fire. Even thinking about that experience is horrific beyond imagining. I cannot imagine the deep, deep pain that mom and dad and my brother have gone through, losing those children at such a young age. They were under 10 years old. And even then, even with that extremely difficult experience, the mom and dad and remaining brother and sister found ways to use that loss to help other people. And they are exploring ways of, in their own healing, of being resources for other people who have gone through horrific loss and horrific pain themselves. And I haven't talked about gratitude with them. It's not appropriate to do. But having gone through loss myself, I know that there was a point where I realized that there were aspects of those difficulties that for which I was grateful, not for the experience itself, but through things that were brought to me by going through the experience that I was grateful for. And it changed my understanding of the world, and it changed my understanding of how to look at the world. When we're young, quite often we are seeing the world through the belief systems of our parents or the belief systems that are radically different, almost opposed to our parents' belief systems. And we start with that place, and we have an understanding of what is right and wrong in the world and what's good and bad. And we come to have our own experiences that give us appreciation that we didn't get when we were growing up, that our parents either did not have themselves or that they could not translate and transfer to us. So we have our own experience. I am grateful for all the experiences that I've gone through, positive and negative, positive and difficult, life enhancing, and those situations, those experiences that really were challenging to me, and I didn't know if I'd survive. I didn't know how I would survive because my life had changed so radically. I didn't recognize it, and this was not how I wanted my life to go. And when I came to acceptance and the ability to really see that there were things with this new way of living that in some ways were better than the old, but it took me a while to get there. I was able to then find my path to feeling happiness and joy, to feel contentment, to feel even more love, to feel ecstasy about being alive in the world again. So we only have a few minutes here. I'd love if somebody else would offer their comments, offer their experiences. If you think that I'm full of baloney, I encourage you even to say that. And use these last few minutes to express yourselves, folks. And I run a governmental meeting once a month, and one of the things that we do is we ask for comments at the end of the meeting. And the technical process that I do is I say, we invite public comment, and I wait a few minutes, and hearing none, I will ask for adjournment. Hi, Debran. Welcome, Debran. I'm sorry that if it looks like you just joined us here at the end of our talk. We were talking about gratitude, how to use gratitude, what it is, and how to use it in the most difficult parts of our lives. If you have time, I encourage you to listen to the recording, which will be up on probably just about 15 minutes after we end here at 9:00. And if somebody has stories that you didn't want to post while you were listening, I encourage you to do that afterwards. I hear from people after every Facebook Live, and I'm grateful that this information is going out in the world. This will be on my Facebook page, on my Instagram page, and on my YouTube channel, excuse me, where you can find all the other recordings that I have, I think, for the past 5 or 6 weeks. So, folks, as we go into Thanksgiving next week, I encourage you, for those of you who have done gratitude practice before, I encourage you to stretch a little bit further and consider the aspects of your life that are difficult, the aspects of your life that you really don't want to look at, you really don't want to have to deal with. Find things to appreciate about them. Find ways to explore acceptance, to explore surrendering to what is as it is right now, whether that's in politics, whether that's in extended family, whether that's in relationships, whether that's in your health or the health of people around you, or whether that's in your own feelings about the future, for yourself or for the world. My love to you all. I wish you all happy Thanksgiving. Join me here in 2 weeks I will not be here, at least I don't think that I'll be here next Friday. But join me in 2 weeks, which will be Friday, December 2nd. I wish you a happy Thanksgiving and love to all. Bye-bye. Thanks everybody for being here, and thanks to those who are listening at the recording.